Hello, Nancy Forrester here from Canada's National Emotional Freedom Techniques Training Institute. And we're here with another episode of our EFT Unplugged series where we talk to the actual practitioners, the clinicians and coaches who are using EFT in their practices. So today, welcome Angelique Benois. Hi, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
And Angelique is a psychotherapist who is using EFT in her business, which is nurturingourwellbeing.com. And she's bringing her background in psychology together with her nursing background and integrating her yoga interests and training as well, all together with emotional freedom.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to hear what your thoughts and your experiences are. So would you start off and just tell us a little bit about how you found emotional freedom techniques and what your journey's been like so far?
Okay. So interestingly enough, I had completed a training with the Traumatology Canada in 2010. And it had little pieces of a lot in it. And I think at that point in time, I may have kind of dismissed it. And then it kind of crept back into my life. And I came across Nancy and great reviews. And I looked up the organization and I thought this seemed really, really useful. And it felt very timely for me to go. So I did the training, the levels 1 and 2, and then I came back and got my Conscious EFT training as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I love the fact that you're pointing toward the Trauma Institute, because that is such a huge gift that EFT brings to the table, is working with people in their trauma parts that haven't been resolved yet.
Yeah, so true.
So then what is it for you as a psychotherapist that appeals to you about EFT tapping?
Honestly, I really found it really beneficial that I didn't have to really alter what I was my current approach. So I was doing CBT, I was doing DBT, I was doing mindfulness, like I was doing a lot, I was doing yoga therapy, and this kind of just weaved in and so nicely with everything that I was already doing. So I didn't have to necessarily drop something that I believed has its time and its place. I can kind of just mend it together and strengthen it on a different approach and a different level for the clients that I serve.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for saying that, because that's the way I see it too, that EFT sort of, it rounds up all the different players. It doesn't say, oh no, that's not of any use. It really just expands and integrates so nicely.
It expands, and for me, it also deepens.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So allows us to get underneath some of the conscious pieces of our thinking and our emotions and really get to what the unconscious stuff is.
Yeah. That's where I kind of feel it going through. Yeah.
So I'd love to hear how you're using this with your clients and what you're noticing about the results and how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well. So I'm using it in 2 different arenas. So I do workshops, mental health and emotional workshops for different corporations and different organizations. And so in those moments of training, I always try and plant the seed in regards to, there's so many different ways that you can get help in regards to your mental health, your emotional health, and your self-care. And then I kind of plant the seed about emotional freedom technique. And I kind of say, who's heard about acupuncture? And usually most people have heard about it. And then that's how I kind of explain it. So on that level, it's that piece. And you get people coming up after the training kind of asking a little bit more. They're kind of curious. And then the second is I do live online therapy on sessions on the computer. And in those sessions, I always integrate it. And honestly, it's been very well received. After you develop that therapeutic relationship, they trust your judgment, and you're not going to be presenting something to them that you think is not going to be valuable to their well-being. And they try, and there hasn't been a client that hasn't reached benefits from it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it really gives us this way to help our clients right in the moment to regulate that nervous system.
Yeah.
So whether somebody comes onto your video call and they've just been scurrying like crazy because traffic's been bad and they're a little anxious about being late, it's like, okay, then let's just do a little tapping here, calm that system down.
Yes.
and get ready for the deeper work that we're wanting to do.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Or even when just kind of broaching some difficult, painful situations for them, to kind of just bring them back to a place to letting them feel safe.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, that's what we're discovering as we start to blend the biological with the scientific, with the psychotherapeutic, and bringing it all together. We're really understanding that that safety piece, real, honest safety in the nervous system, is so foundational to all our work.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If that system doesn't feel safe, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so then, how is emotional freedom techniques helping you personally, you know, maybe in your own life, but also what are you noticing as a psychotherapist as you're integrating this into your work?
Well, it's interesting because with growing up, my dad is very spiritual and very much in regards to energy. So I've always kind of heard that kind of language growing up, right? So it wasn't foreign to me in regards to that this would work. But what I didn't realize is that how much it allows me to just be more grounded when I'm serving. Yeah. So in between each time that I'm seeing a client, I'm able to kind of do my own kind of scan and kind of releasing. And then it just makes me more prepared and more available and that much more connectable with the next person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then that whole co-regulation that we know happens in our work.
Yeah.
You're holding more possibility of presence in the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we didn't talk about this, but is it okay if I share our little secret that, you know, before we even started this video, we were doing our own tapping, right, on anxiety about being seen and being heard and being listened to, and then setting our intention.
Yeah.
That this be of some value to people.
To somebody, exactly.
Well then, let me ask you this question. What are you finding to be the challenges of bringing EFT into this work?
Well, it's kind of funny because when you really sit and think about it, I think if anyone sits and thinks about it, it's not new information, right? Like if you go back historically, people understood and recognized and valued energy and spiritual work. And in regards to my yoga, I went to India and I did my yoga. And then I found that is even called Kemetic yoga. So even before that, in regards to in Egypt, and they're constantly talking about energies and flows and chakras and everything like that. So we know this, but for some reason, even, and I'll be honest, when I went for the training with you and everyone was coming in and I'm seeing everyone kind of doing this, and I was sitting there going, okay, what's going on here, right? And I felt resistance in regards to it. So even though it was something like I shared with you that it's not foreign to me, I believe it historically and family-wise, it was, the hard part is the visual, that it looks kind of odd.
Weird.
Yeah, right, it looks kind of strange, right? But so I think that's where the hesitation is for people to kind of practice that. But the more that I'm getting confident in my practice and in regards to once you experience it, you can't deny it, right? And
you really can't. And then I know in my own journey with EFT, oh boy, I was with you, total resistance. Why do I have to even think about this ridiculous looking thing? But I had the experience, and I continued to have the experience with myself such that I felt like I couldn't ethically withhold this news from my clients.
Exactly. Yeah, you feel selfish, and then it's and if you don't share, it's only for your own insecurities and fears, right?
Exactly, which of course are all tappable issues.
Exactly. So you still do it, and yeah. So I do it, and what helps me is I call it. So I say, I know this may seem odd, but just be your own investigator and just try it.
And just try it,
yeah. And just try it. And I mean, if it's something that doesn't fit for you right now, and you're like, right now, Okay, I'll respect that. Maybe it's not your time. We do it another time when your mindset is more open to it. But just try it. And once I take that, it's not something that's forced. Then they're okay with it. And I mean, this is corporate individuals that are in the corporate world, so business people who are doing it with me, and youth.
Yes, beautiful.
Right? So youth who are kind of, so I give them techniques how they can do it so it's not so visible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Yeah. And it's it is one of the challenges of this is how do we make this an invitation? I know back in the day, 20 years ago when this first came out and a very small handful of people was having this experience and we got really like, everybody has to do this. And it was almost like, if you're not tapping, then, whatever. And so I love the energy with which you're saying, I just offer them the invitation.
Yes.
And that's the acceptance that is the whole point of emotional freedom techniques, right? I love and accept.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it's the freedom. There's the freedom in regards to your restraints of your own fears, your anxieties, your traumas, your past histories, but it's also the freedom of doing it wherever and whenever you want to do it.
Absolutely, right? It's like right at your fingertips.
Right.
Yeah, and so, when talking about youth, I get really excited about your work because giving them this really simple, easy to learn, easy to use technique that's right there when they need it. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. And it's something that, okay, they'll use it now, and then maybe they might not use it for a little while, and then they'll go back and remember it and use it when they need it, and and it's one of those things, like I said, like for me growing up, it's just those seeds are planted. So when you hear it and come across it, it's not foreign. Right. And then on a corporate level, they do it, and they're finding that it's really helping them to function and be productive in their work.
Yes, absolutely. That clearing the anxieties, the overwhelms, then allows the integration of all the parts of the brain, so the greater productivity and
Exactly. And the judgment, like that's a big theme, is always feeling judged, right? Because of the competitiveness of our work world. So for them to kind of, in that moment when they're feeling judged, when they have to do a presentation, when they have to have a big meeting, they can kind of do this privately in their own office before they then go in.
Absolutely. And as you say, we have some ways that we can make it, we don't have to be tapping all over our faces and be visible. We have some techniques to make that a little bit.
Exactly.
A little more subtle. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So finally, Angelique, what would you say, why would you recommend to psychotherapists, nurses, doctors, all the mental health people, why would you recommend them to take training, particularly with the National Institute?
Okay, so I'll try and keep this as concise as I can because I have a lot to say. But two approaches. One for your clients. We're all there in this field that we want to serve to the best capacity, right? And help our clients shift. And so just for that mere understanding that we all have subconscious, we all have traumas, offering that as another tool in their toolbox, it just makes sense. Right? It just makes sense to give them that opportunity. So, and once you start to see it, you'll see the benefits. And second, it's for your own professional growth and for your own grounding and for your own self-care so you don't come compassion fatigue. It's just, once again, it's just part of everything else that they recommend, the supervision, the mentorship, the professional development. It's your own kind of way of self-care in between your sessions. Once again, it's quick. You always have it with you. And it ties in nicely. I love my breath work in regard to being into yoga therapy. I love my breath, and it just flows so much nicely with the breath to kind of do it. I feel shifts. My thing is the yawning. Right? So, right? I constantly yawn, right? And then, it's great. So that, and then in regard specifically where I did my training, I'm really glad that I came across Nancy and her organization. It's very thorough. It's very structured. So you're not there kind of wondering like, this is wasting my time, like what I come here. Your time is a lot of valuable information throughout your time that you're spent. So if you like structure, you like to see, you have new learning, you like to kind of be challenged, and you like to have the experience of it as opposed to always just like theory and it's just talking. This is an experience you need to actually feel and be it. It's a lived experience, and you get that with this training, and I love that. I loved it.
Thank you. You've hit on all the pieces that are just so important to me.
Oh,
So
good.
thank you for your kind words.
No, you're very welcome.
And thank you for your time today too, Angelique. And so if people want to contact you,
Mm-hmm.
they should email you at
info@nurturingourwellbeing.com.
.com. Okay.
Yes.
Info
Right.
at nurturingourwellbeing.com.
Yeah.com. Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
you can reach us at the National Institute here at nefti.com, National EFT Training Institute.com. We'd be happy to chat with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me again. And thank you for everyone who's watching. Hope it offers you something.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.